it's a horrible place to be sometimes when you think back at it. From now, going back, and I'm thinking I didn't really compose myself well enough. I think I got the occasion got to me. That's the World Finals. I think everyone wants to get that in that circumstances. Without my dad in my life, I don't think I'd be playing darts. So all my credit goes to my dad, and God help his soul, he's not with us anymore. But everything I do now, or try to do for darts, is for my dad.
Hello darts fans, and welcome back to the MODUS Super Series on Pluto TV. Well, now we're going to have a tungsten talk with someone who we can all call a legend of the sport. Andy Hamilton, it is an absolute pleasure to have you with us. Scotty Dog Mitchell is going to have a chat with us as well. Andy, you are a winner in this building now. It took a few cracks for you to do so, but before we start talking about the things in a more recency sense, I want to take you back about 20 years. Because there's been a lot of chatter recently about how young players are coming into the game. I want to get your perspective on what it was like to try and get onto a World Championship stage in the early 2000s.
Yeah, for me, I think in the day, I think it was hard. As hard as it was then, I think it's just as hard now as it is. As a player myself, I just found it. I took it in my stride at the end of the day. I've had a working class upbringing, so. To be play darts was a dream come true for me. So to go on that World Championship stage was just probably a dream come true, and it was just a hard tour, hard travelling to get to there, and obviously to try and perform on that stage.
Circus Tavern was your first World Championship. You came up against some great players. Could you have imagined at that point that your career would still be going in a very positive sense in 2025?
No, not at all. We don't know how long our career lasts, and obviously that's down to the person. I think my mentality of the game, I just love the game so much, and whether I win or lose, I think it's in my blood. I think it always will be in my blood. I think, like I've said before, the day I die, that'll be when I stop playing darts. So as long as I'm still breathing, I'll still keep playing darts.
There's no age to this game now, Scott, is there? Because you look at Paul Lim making the WDF World Championship final against Shane McGurk recently at the age of 70. So we don't necessarily have a benchmark for age these days, do we?
No, Paul Lim is our benchmark. You know, he's the guy that we're all looking at and going, yeah, we can carry on. Martin Adams is still being sort of quite successful at the age that he is. So, you know, you are limited, but I think as a dart player, you don't think further than the next year, do you? You kind of try and plan your next year, and then you worry about the year after that another time. You do, just something you don't look that far ahead.
No, I think you just play in the moment, and the moment is now. Where you can't look that far in front because you don't know what's going to happen anyway. No one can. I think just take it a day at a time, and as long as you still love the game and still keep playing darts, you'll still keep finding that time to go on and on and on.
When the Grand Slam of Darts was brought around in 2007, there were a lot of people pitching it as BDO versus PDC, and it did capture the imagination, that's for sure. But it was all PDC in that final when he took on Taylor, when Stoke pretty much ruled the darting world around that time, and did for quite a few years. How did it feel making the final in Wolverhampton that first year?
I think probably a bit of a, not relief in a way. I think just, it gave me belief in my own game again, where, not again, but obviously it's the first time I got to a final, so it gave me belief that I can get to a final. Obviously I never got the chance to win a final, but it gave me a stepping stone for get to more finals, and I proved I got to two more finals after that. And also, it's just probably a stepping stone in knowing how good you really are if you can get to that circumstances in life.
Let's give people a bit of an insight into just how difficult it was back then to win any tournament that Phil Taylor was actually in. Just how good was he, and how hard was he to beat?
Oh, it's so hard to beat. He still is the best player I've ever played in my life. I've played Malcolm Van Gogh, not a chance to play Luke Littler, but for me, he was very resilient on that hockey. He never gave you a sniff of anything, and if you did, you had to take it out. So the pressure was there all the time. If you have your chance, you had to take it, and they were few and far between. So that player for me is the most decorated dart player that ever will be in life. Everyone will never be as good as him. I think the game now is there's so many on like a par with each other. So I think that all the titles now are spread so much, which is great for darts. But I wish I was part of it now, where Phil Taylor wasn't dominating all the time.
Phil just had an aura about him, didn't he? A presence. Even 3 hours before the game, he walks into a practice room and it's like, whoa, there's Phil Taylor. And no matter how often you played with him, no matter how often you've been in a room with him, you could not lose that aura about him, could you? And I think that was all before you even put your toe to the hockey.
Yeah, I think it started before that and all. I've been a few times where they've done the draw live and the players are there, like the Vegas Classic, and people are waiting for the draw to come out. And they're all anticipating Phil Taylor coming out then, who he's playing then. You see people, when they've been drawn against him, Phil Taylor v whoever it is, oh no, I've lost already. So that's before they even start the game.
He just, even for me, I was obviously playing in the BDO in those days and got to play him in exhibitions and stuff. It was just like, there was just an aura about him. And like you say, once you got up against him, oh, that's my night run anyway. Never mind, we've had a nice time. And that was your attitude before you played him. He just had that aura about him and that invincibility.
What is it about Stoke then? Tell us about that, Andy, because you think about the strength of the Staffordshire County team and even the surrounding counties around Stoke-on-Trent. Phil Taylor, yourself, Ian White, Adrian Lewis, and there are others too. Mark Frost, Gareth Pass, other players. What is it about that area that brought so many dart players to the fore?
Yeah, I think Stoke-on-Trent, I think it's a great place to play darts. It's a working city and people want to, I don't know, it is enjoyment. It's a social event and all, going out and playing darts. You can go every night of the weekend, Stoke-on-Trent, and there's a league playing. And most nights, the class is different areas, but it's literally all Super League players. And you'll always get a tough game every night of the week. And I think it's just a lot of people haven't made it just through commitments or financial reasons. And like I say, I was lucky. I had a good break at the time and sometimes be in the right place, right time to have a chance to be a professional dart player.
And people would gravitate towards Stoke-on-Trent. I think you can attest to this, Scott, because people from your neck of the woods, they would actually go to Stoke to practice with the best players from that area, like of yourself, Ian White. Even Chris Mason's talked about going to practice at Phil Taylor's house. So everybody wanted to be as good as the people from Stoke.
Yeah, I think it's that kind of thing. At the time, it was great at the time, and I'll say it again. Obviously, I was number 5 on the wheel, but I was still number 3 in Stoke-on-Trent. So I'll say that every time. But it's quite funny, really. But yeah, I think it's a great place. I think it's a coincidence that happened at the time where there's 3 players that came out, me, Adrian and Phil. So I think it's just coincidence. Will it happen again? It's very hard to see at the moment. There's not many players, young ones coming through, but there's lots of development there for the young kids coming through, which is a great thing. There's loads of academies going on now, so hopefully we'll not see the next Phil Taylor come from Stoke-on-Trent.
What are your experiences of Andy early on in his career, Scott? Because you and I were playing county darts around about the time where Andy was breaking through. What were your first impressions of Andy?
Just how determined he was at the dartboard and how focused he was at the dartboard. I think there are other players that we've seen in the darting world. If they could have ever found your focus and your determination, they would have been world beaters. But for some of them, it's not the easiest thing to find. But for Andy, even still now, it seems to be I've played him recently. It's a very natural thing for Andy. It's not something that he has to try to do. It comes natural with his game. As soon as he puts his toe to the hockey, very determined, very dogged, and you've never got him. You've never got him till you've got that last dart. And it's something that, yes, we're developing players and younger players, but we're not quite developing in the mould of Andy Hamilton.
Is that something that you're really proud of, Andy? Because you and I have spent time together on tour. You've spent time with Scott as well. And you have this reputation amongst your peers as someone who was very hard to displace.
I just like that myself. I think I've been brought up for just never give in life. And I think that went through and installed in me in darts as well. I never said I was the best player around, and I'll keep saying I'm not the best player around, but for determination and focus, I'm probably up there with the best. So for me, if I didn't have that determination and focus, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. So the focus and determination has got me where I am today.
I think Manchester United could do with someone like you. I know you're a big Manchester United fan, but they could do with someone with your kind of attitude, Andy.
Yeah, I think they do. This game's all about being passionate. I'm very passionate about my game, and I love this game so much. And I think we need to focus, people who are playing the same sports need to focus more on what they want in life and where they're going to go in the future. And I think having that passion gives you belief in life and obviously puts you in a good stead for the future.
I just want to get your insight into some of the players that you have spent a lot of time with over the years. If you could give me one name, the one person who has defined your career to date, who do you think it's been?
It's hard to say because a lot of players I've travelled a lot of players and I don't really put anyone on a pedestal at all now. Obviously Phil Taylor was a hero of mine when I was growing up, and obviously I got to meet him and got to play against him, and then that all went. I had loads of respect for him, but for me, without my dad in my life, I don't think I'd be playing darts. So all my credit goes to my dad, and God help his soul, he's not with us anymore. But everything I do now or try to do for darts is for my dad.
That's nice to hear, isn't it, Scott? Because when we ask this kind of question of a long-time professional, it's easy to say it's someone who everybody knows, but we don't see the stuff in the background from the parents, the partners, that kind of thing. So obviously that's lovely to hear.
I think most dart players are in the same boat. They say never meet your darting heroes or any hero that you have, because sometimes you don't see them as the same. There are very few that see as they are. But I think, yeah, once we all get into a room together, we're a very different character anyway. And, you take the Super Series here, it's different again. You get 6 of you out in that back room and you're forced together. And you find out about each other, things that you've never found out about each other, and you've been in the same room for 15 years together. So I do like that about the game, and that's why the game still surprises us.
I know that Simon Whitlock has had a lot to do with the successes of your career, a World Championship semi-final, and of course, a certain match at the match play, which I'm sure you've talked about quite a few times. Tell us about how joyous that felt at the end.
I think it's a great game in Simon, the meal match play. I was like 15-8 down, and I thought I'd lost. I don't think I'd lost the game, but I had a big road to go to try and get back in the game. And I just took each leg at a time. I never thought I was going to win the game. And when it got about 15-11, I had a little sniff at I could win this, and I really could. And obviously, as Simon was there, he had chances to win the game. It wasn't because I won the game; he lost the game in a way. But he gave me them chances, and I took them. And I think I always come back to the last leg. I think I was 15-8 down. I got back to 16-15, and I was sitting on 94. And this is probably one of the best finishes I'll ever think I did in my life. Is a 25-19, and last shot was in the bullseye. I had to move it, the bullseye. I'll never forget it. And obviously, since that's happened, every time me and Simon meet, he always reminds me about Blackpool, which is it's a great reminder for me, but not for himself.
You did beat him in a World Championship semi-final as well. So that must have been a huge thing for you, making a World Championship final. Let everybody who's watching this know what it's like to be there as one of the last 2 players at Alexandra Palace on that finals day, because it's a very eerie atmosphere in the practice room, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a horrible place to be sometimes when you think back at it. At the time, from now, going back, and I'm thinking I didn't really compose myself well enough. I think I got the occasion got to me a bit, the World Finals. I think everyone wants to get that in that circumstances. And for me, it was tough. I tried my best, and I come out second. But I'll take credit for the whole week, really. I said to myself, I thought I was one of the best players of the week. Maybe I didn't justify myself in the final, but you only have one go at it, and it proved I only had one more chance at that final as well. So, hey, Adrian, great player. He had the year before he'd won it, so he's been there. He's got the T-shirt, so he knew all the ins and outs of no trickery, just experience. So many sets were like 3-2, and they could have gone either way. Like I think 4 sets were 3-2. So if take them 4 sets off him and give them to me, maybe I would have been world champion.
You can understand what that's like, Scott, because when you were at the 2015 Lakeside World Championship final, you can understand what being in that final atmosphere is like. So you can understand what Andy's saying here.
It starts on the start of the day, doesn't it? The hotel is a different place because there's not so many players. You walk around the hotel, it's been players. You get to that last day, it's sort of more dignitaries, people that have sponsored the event or whatever. So the whole atmosphere of the hotel changes before you even get up on the day you play. And then you go to the back room, and like you say, it's been a hive of activity with players practicing for their games and this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden, it's just you and your opponent, isn't it? It's a very eerie place to be and very difficult to describe. And unless you've been there and felt it, you kind of wouldn't totally understand how it affects your mind.
Yeah, I think you've got to be that circumstances to realise what goes on in life. And for me, it did start in the daytime. And it's hard because sometimes it is a last game, but I think there's more pressure on that last game, because you know what it means as well to be world champion. And I think I didn't cope with that very well, the pressure. I think it got me before I got on stage at the time. So, yeah, I wish I could go and rerun it again now. But like you say, that's in the past, and we've got to move forward.
Now, not many people have made a PDC World Championship final, and only 6 nations have actually made a final since the start in 1994. England has been the best, of course, winning the most and having the most competitors in finals, but you are one of them, and that can never be taken away from you. Another final that you made, which a lot of people tend to forget, is that you made the UK Open final as well. Tell us about that. Yeah,
I think that was the year after, and I think it's one of them tournaments where I've never really performed at. For me, because of my concentration, I just seem to lose focus through the day because there's 3 or 4 games in one day. I think it just all clicked on the last day, and I remember playing Barneveld in the semi-finals, and I think that game sticks out more than the final to me because it's a nip and tuck game, and he gave me a chance. Another person gave me a chance, and I took it. I think that's my whole career. I think people give me a chance, and I take it.
You also played in the Premier League, which is something that everybody wants to be part of at some point. But you also made the playoffs, and you were involved in that historic 9-darter for Whitlock. But what a lot of people, again, tend to forget is how well you played in that leg. That must have been a great leg to be part of, even though it was a game that you would subsequently lose.
Yeah, most definitely. I think we can go back. It had to be Simon Whitlock, didn't it, as well? So we always talk about me and Simon. To do that 9-darter together, I think that changed the game for him as well, because I think it was a high-class game in the semi-final. So I was happy to be in that game. I wasn't happy to lose, but I take a lot of positives from losing, and that's what life's all about. Take the positives, not the negatives.
The positive thing about your career is that it's still not done, and there's still many, many years ahead of you. But we were talking off the air just before we started this at how many World Championship venues you played in. We looked at someone like Phil Taylor, the greatest player that's ever thrown a dart. He's played at the Circus Tavern, he's played at Lakeside, and he's played at Alexandra Palace. Now, that is a fairly good thing to do, but you've played in one more, haven't you?
Yeah, most definitely. I look back at this all the time, and I look to see where other players have done like 4 World Championships. And obviously, I played at the O2. It was only there for the 1 year as well, so not many would have done that. So for me, it's just, hey, probably in the record books for something else anyway.
You played there as well, Scott.
I played at the O2, but I missed out on the Circus Tavern days, so I'm still on 3 with Mr. Taylor, so I'll take that.
Well, you played at the seniors, so we'll give you that.
I played there at the seniors, but it doesn't count for me, that.
With the Grand Slam, we've already talked about making the final in the very first year. Just tell us, from your perspective, what it's been like to see that tournament grow over the last 20 years, because it has evolved from a BDO versus PDC tournament to now being one of the biggest ranked events in the world, and now Luke Littler's the champion. Yeah,
I think it didn't give the controversy when the BDO and the PDC got together. I think it was great for the game. The two sides getting together, the best playing the best of each side. And I think the best then come out on top. Obviously, Scott Wake's won it. I can't remember the year, but Scott Wake's won it from the BDO side. So they have really performed there on the BDO side. So it's been great to have. But obviously, developing side, I think it's developed so much. That's still in the background, but I think it's moved so much forward. It's just got stronger and stronger every year it's gone on, and it's so hard to qualify for.
Yeah, when we talk about moving forward as well, when we had COVID in 2020, we started thinking about the idea of this. And this has evolved from playing in people's bedrooms. It's gone to Southampton, which is a town I know you know very well because you've spent some time there. But now we're in Portsmouth, and you've seen the evolution of this place. How do you feel about the way that the second level of darts has evolved when you've been at this level?
Oh, it's amazing. This is second to none. MODUS Super Series, you've got the ADC coming on board. That they're just developing more and more. This is the best thing that's happened behind the professional scene as the MODUS Super Series, because we wouldn't have this kind of professionalism other than the PDC to play on, and that's so hard to get on the tour. So to have this on the sidelines is just a massive thing. It's just developed more and more, and people want to play on it now. I hear people wanting to play on MODUS Super Series who can't get on it because it's that high demand now, and all. So many players want to get on it and can't.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it, Scott? Because at the start, we were asking players to turn up to play, and it was difficult geographically with restrictions. But now we've got people knocking on the door. And if you want to get an automatic invite, which I'm sure Andy wants for the next year or so, you're going to have to keep winning.
You are. It really has turned on its head how it's worked. And, I agree with Andy with the ADC coming on board. The whole undercard, I call it, to the PDC is now providing a more than genuine sort of belt of players ready to go up to that 128, and the Super Series is probably the place where you get so much experience being on the TV, being in front of cameras. These are things that Andy and I couldn't get in our day. You know, we would have to qualify for a World Championship. We'd get one go in front of that TV, in front of TV, in front of the crew, in front of everything. And if you got that wrong, you had to wait another year. Now you're getting that 5 times in a day if you play in Group A here. So if that's not developing you as a player, and this isn't a good time for dart players to develop, then I'm a Dutchman.
And I think also this MODUS Super Series, it doesn't just what you see. It's like in that back room where you got all the players in that room, you got experienced players in there, and obviously young kids coming through. And And for me, I want to try to give something back what I've learned, and hopefully some of them have learned, some have listened, some haven't. But if I'm giving something back, it makes me feel good as well. So hopefully that background, more happens than what you think.
To make yourself feel good in 2025, if you could cherry pick 2 things to happen this year, what would you like to happen as far as darts is concerned?
For myself, obviously, qualify again for the Champions Week and win Champions Week. They're the 2 things. So here we are today trying to do that.
And do you feel more equipped to try and do that now that you've actually got that weekly win from the back end of last year?
I think this game's all about, once you've done it, you know you can do it again. I think for me now I've done it and I've got to that Champions Week, and I think I'm going to make an excuse last time I was ill. So the next time I get there, hopefully I'll give me the best performance of myself and go on to win it.
Well, we've heard it here first. Andy Hamilton says when he gets back to Champions Week again, we have no reason to doubt him. One of the most stoic and determined dart players we've ever seen, and he's not finished yet.